Guerry Smith covers the Tulane for the Times-Picayune. We were just talking about the quarterback room with the addition of Retzlaff and much, much more. Thank you very much for your time, Guerry. What has been the reaction around Tulane with picking up a name like this?
The reaction is very favorable. Obviously, he's going to have a steep learning curve. He committed to Tulane 9 days before preseason practice starts. That's a Herculean task to come in and win a starting job in that span of time. But Tulane, the two quarterbacks that remained from spring practice did not end spring very well. In the spring game, they combined for 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. Caden Simmons, who started all year at Ball State last year for a team that went 3-9, and Donovan Leary, who was a backup at Illinois. They both showed some talent during the spring, but not enough to convince people that Tulane can win with those guys. And then they brought in Brendan Sullivan at the end of spring from Iowa. Same story. He wasn't that successful when he started at Iowa, and then Iowa recruited over him, which is why he ended up transferring to Tulane. So here Tulane has a quarterback coming in who went 11-2 and made some. His statistics were pretty pedestrian for BYU last year, but he made some just monster plays at the end of games and BYU was they were picked 13th in their league in the Big 12 in the preseason media poll, and they finished 13th in the country in the final AP poll. So, yeah, I mean, he isn't guaranteed to win the job, but it certainly would appear that his upside is higher than the other quarterbacks on the roster.
If he's the quarterback by, say, the time they get to Ole Miss, is that acceptable for Jon Sumrall to give him enough time?
I mean,
some runway?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're really going to put if he's ready before then, I think they'll play him right away. Tulane has a really tough schedule, obviously, this year. I mean, they start with Northwestern, which is not supposed to be particularly good this year, but they're a Power 4 school. They play at South Alabama. That's no gimme. They have a really tough non-conference schedule. So I think that the goal is going to be whoever they think gives them the best chance to win starts right away. So I'm not sure that they would be gearing him up to try to have his first start in the toughest environment that they're going to play in all year at Ole Miss. I think if he can get it done, it's going to be performance based. But if he can get it done, I think that he'd be starting in the opener.
So clearly they didn't feel good enough about a guy to not make this move. But what had you been hearing prior to this move as far as, was there any particular favorite? I mean, I know there was an ongoing competition, but was there even a lean a certain way? And
I don't really – after watching them in the spring, and I was at every spring practice, it was hard to pick a guy at that point. Now, look, last year – it was a totally different story. They had the same situation at the end of spring, but you can't anticipate any quarterback making a jump like they had last year. That was the outlier. But none of these guys gave me, watching them, the confidence that they would be a guy you could count on. Now they all showed flashes at times, but no, I mean, this doesn't look, and I guarantee you the party line is going to be that they were happy with these quarterbacks and that you just can't pass on a guy who went 11-2 at a Power 4 school. And again, the other thing is Jon Sumrall had a prior relationship with this guy because he took an official visit to Troy when Sumrall was the coach at Troy, and they thought they had him because they were really his only offer, and then BYU swooped in and got him. So they already knew him going into this process. But no, I think they're hoping that he'll end up being the starter right away.
Well, he's talented. Now, we kind of BYU was really good last year, ended up with that rout of Colorado in the bowl game.
Right.
But it all depends on who you talk to about exactly what is the ceiling, the upside of Retzlaff. He's really good. And then again, he had a lot of people around him, which a lot of people say. What are your thoughts about who he actually is as a talent?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't know who he was last year, but I watched BYU quite a bit because Tulane was in the running for a college football playoff berth until they lost to Memphis on Thanksgiving weekend, and a lot of it involved the Big 12 teams beating up on each other, and that was kind of what was happening. So I ended up watching a lot of BYU games. What I did like about him again was he only completed 57% of his passes. That's low by modern college football standards. His touchdown to interception ratio was 20-12. That's low by modern college football standards. but he threw a 35-yard touchdown pass in the last seconds to beat Oklahoma State. He started the year. He led a drive for the winning field goal against SMU, which ended up being in the college football playoff. And he led them down the field for the last play field goal to beat Utah. And so those were three that he made winning plays at winning times, and that to me is what sticks out. I think, and Sumrall doesn't need a record-setting quarterback to win. When he was at Troy, he had a game manager for 2 years, and they won 2 straight conference championships in the Sun Belt. This guy has has a higher upside than what Sumrall had at Troy. But yeah, I definitely he'll need to be a little more consistent than he was at BYU, again, facing some tough competition though there.
But like, Jon Sumrall's teams are always going to get after you on defense. So It's not like they're asking him to put up 44 points a game. If their offense averages 24 points a game, they'll win most of them, right?
Yeah, and he's also a run-first coach. Obviously, you don't win anymore by not throwing too, but he doesn't want to put a ton of that. That was certainly Tulane's MO last year, and that'll be the MO again this year. And yeah, their defense looked terrific in the spring. I think maybe some of it, though. I mean, I've had insiders telling me they think this could be the best Tulane defense in school history. To me, that's a little overboard when you lose 8 starters from your defense the year before. But they do have a ton of talent on the defensive line because they did an incredible job in the transfer portal. If those guys can gel quickly when the season starts, that's going to be a salty defense, particularly up front. Yeah, and you're right. It's not going to be a team that's going to have to outscore opponents to win games.
Jerry, the realignment front, you obviously, I'm sure, saw the Memphis story yesterday and them trying to find their way into the Big 12. And Tulane's been a team that's been mentioned at various times, for example, the PAC, and that didn't come to fruition. Yeah. But just kind of I know there's buyout clauses and there's expenses and people don't think about when they're just like, hey, you just should move over there. But what's kind of the conversation been like in terms of Tulane and the bigger picture, if you will?
Yeah, Tulane does not want to join the Pac-12, that whole situation. It's just too much travel. They've made that position clear. Obviously, that would change if the American Athletic Conference were about to lose more teams. Memphis kind of has egg on its face by pursuing the Big 12 and getting rejected without even it coming to a vote. I don't really see where Memphis is gonna. I mean, they also rejected the Pac-12 initially. I know I've heard talk that Memphis, they may want to do a split deal where they're in the Pac-12 for football and the Big East for basketball. That's a long shot. So I think Tulane right now is okay with where they are in the American Athletic Conference, and just trying to with Sumrall and with with the administrative support right now, just trying to do as well as they possibly can, so that when there is a chance to move up to a Power 4 conference down the road, they'll be in the best possible position. But I don't see Tulane joining the Pac-12 unless it was about face by other American Athletic Conference teams and the top tier started leaving for that conference.
Jerry, great stuff. Yes or no? What this news is given like a little adrenaline rush to Tulane football just in time for the start of showing up for fall workouts?
Yes. Be that simple, because this is a team. Athlon's magazine picked Tulane to win the league anyway, but it was definitely going to be a question mark with what the quarterback situation looked like. And again, there's no guarantee he's going to win the job, but his upside and his success is a different level than the other 3 quarterbacks on the roster.